What immoral act did Amnon commit against his sister Tamar, and why? This is the question that we seek to answer today as we continue our verse-by-verse study of the book of 2 Samuel on walking through the Bible. Before beginning, I feel it is my duty as a preacher of the gospel to issue a warning to parents who might be listening with young children that this lesson deals with the issue of incest and sexual assault, and therefore I ask you to consider the maturity of your children before continuing. What we're going to be discussing is not a topic, uncomfortable as it may be, that those who are mature should skip in our walk through the Bible, though, for we can learn some valuable lessons about sin from it, and it is necessary to examine in order to fully understand much of the next section of the book of 2 Samuel. Let it be known, though, that in the discussion of this topic, we will not be crude or graphic, but will approach it delicately and appropriately as we do with any sensitive topic that the Bible talks about. So, today we're going to be discussing 2 Samuel chapter 13, verses 1 to 14. But before we do that, let's read the passage. If you have a Bible with you, you can turn to 2 Samuel 13, verse 1. But if you don't have a Bible, don't worry. Just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So 2 Samuel chapter 13, beginning at verse 1. After this, Absalom the son of David had a lovely sister whose name was Tamar, and Amnon the son of David loved her. Amnon was so distressed over his sister Tamar that he became sick, for she was a virgin, and it was improper for Amnon to do anything to her. But Amnon had a friend whose name was Jonadab, the son of Shimeah, David's brother. Now Jonadab was a very crafty man, and he said to him, "Why are you, the king's son, becoming thinner day after day? Will you not tell me?" Amnon said to him, "I love Tamar, my brother Absalom's sister." So Jonadab said to him, "Lie down on your bed and pretend to be ill. And when your father comes to see you, say to him, 'Please let my sister Tamar come and give me food, and prepare the food in my sight, that I may see it and eat from her hand.'" Then Amnon lay down and pretended to be ill. And when the king came to see him, Amnon said to the king, "Please let Tamar my sister come and make a couple of cakes for me in my sight, that I may eat from her hand." And David sent home to Tamar, saying, "Now go to your brother Amnon's house and prepare food for him." So Tamar went to her brother Amnon's house, and he was lying down. Then she took flour and kneaded it, made cakes in his sight, and baked the cakes. And she took the pan and placed them out before him, but he refused to eat. Then Amnon said, "Have everyone go out from me." And they all went out from him. Then Amnon said to Tamar, "Bring the food into the bedroom, that I may eat from your hand." And Tamar took the cakes which she had made, and brought them to Amnon her brother in the bedroom. Now when she had brought them to him to eat, he took hold of her and said to her, "Come, lie with me, my sister." But she answered him, "No, my brother, do not force me, for no such thing should be done in Israel. Do not do this disgraceful thing, and where could I take my shame? And as for you, you would be like one of the fools in Israel. Now therefore, please speak to the king, for he will not withhold me from you." However, he would not heed her voice, and being stronger than she, he forced her and lay with her. Back when David sinned with Bathsheba, one of the punishments that God told David about was the dysfunction in his family that would come from it, and that the sword would not leave his house, meaning that some of his children would die by the sword. Here in chapter 13, and going really all the way through chapter 20, we see much of the results of this punishment as it concerns David's house, though it will even extend into 1 Kings 2. As for the timing of chapter 13, we're probably about the midway point of David's reign due to the ages of Amnon and Tamar that would need to be here. That would make David to be about 50 here, and our dates to come down to about 990 BC. Solomon would have been born, but he would have either been an infant or a very young boy here. Amnon is the son of David's third wife, Ahinoam, but he is David's oldest son. Tamar is the daughter of Maacah, David's fourth wife, and full brother to Absalom, David's third son. That makes Tamar a half-sister to Amnon. What we read about is not only a direct result of David's sin, but also a direct result of having multiple wives. Recall back to the family of Jacob. There were plenty of sibling rivalries in that family, and although the siblings did not commit incest, they did sell their brother Joseph into slavery in Egypt, and Reuben did have sexual relations with one of Jacob's concubines. Jacob's moral authority to lead his family was not strong, as was seen through the event of the likely rape of his daughter Dinah. Bringing it forward to David. Had David not had multiple wives and actually followed Deuteronomy 17:17's command to kings not to multiply their wives, and had he not sinned with Bathsheba, then perhaps his example would have been seen by his children, leading them away from committing such immoral acts. But David did sin in these ways, allowing his children to see that bad example and copy it. Now, yes, that doesn't excuse Amnon in any way for his sins, but seeing bad examples from parents place more temptation in front of children for which they could give in to. What we find here in chapter 13 is that it is said that Amnon loved his beautiful virgin sister Tamar, but this love wasn't a brotherly type of love. In fact, it wasn't really love at all. It was an illicit sexual lust that was improper for a brother to have towards his sister. It was so bad that Amnon wouldn't eat and he became sick. Now this concerned his cousin and friend Jonadab to the point that he convinced Amnon to tell him why he wouldn't eat. When Amnon confessed his desire for Tamar, Jonadab, a crafty schemer, told Amnon to feign sickness and then tell his father to send Tamar into him to cook for him so that he may regain his strength. Now, even though the chapter doesn't specifically say, by the mention of Jonadab's craftiness and Amnon's later actions, it can be assumed that Jonadab told Amnon to take this opportunity to have sex with his sister to satisfy his fleshly desires. And so Amnon did what Jonadab suggested, and Tamar came and cooked for him. While she was cooking, Amnon asked all others to leave and for Tamar to serve him the food in his bedroom. And while this was certainly an unusual request, I'm sure that Tamar, Amnon's sister, was not expecting what would come next, for when they were alone, Amnon propositioned his sister to have sex with him. And to her credit, Tamar was a virtuous woman. She was a virgin, for she was unmarried, and what's more, she knew that having sexual relations with her own brother was something that was abominable and went against the law of Moses. We have studied this twice before, but let's refresh our memories about what the law of Moses had to say about incest. In Leviticus 18, verse 9, we read, "The nakedness of your sister, the daughter of your father, or the daughter of your mother, whether born at home or elsewhere, their nakedness you shall not uncover." And then in Deuteronomy 27:22 we read, "Cursed is the one who lies with his sister, the daughter of his father, or the daughter of his mother." And all the people shall say, Amen. Breaking the law of Moses in this way by committing such a vile act would thus bring shame not only onto Tamar, but onto Amnon as well, the oldest son of David, and at that time probably seen by many as the heir to the throne. Tamar even went as far as to tell Amnon to petition the king to give her to Amnon as a wife, if he wanted to have her, for at least then they would be seen as married. Now, by Tamar saying this, I don't believe that David would have condoned such an action based on his reaction later on in this chapter. Rather, I believe that this was a delay tactic by Tamar so that she might have the opportunity to escape. But Amnon would hear nothing of the sort, and because he was stronger than her, he forced himself upon her and raped her. There is no excuse for Amnon's actions here. Tamar told Amnon no in no uncertain terms, and yet Amnon did it anyway. Thus, in this, Tamar did not commit sin. Amnon did, and Amnon alone. It was a despicable deed committed by an evil and debased man. It not only brought shame on his innocent sister, for in that time virginity was well guarded by women and was sought after by male suitors, but it brought shame on Amnon too, as well as consequences that he would later face at the hands of his brother Absalom. But this immediate story is not over, and we'll continue that, Lord willing, in the next lesson. With that, our time is up for today. The Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of 2 Samuel chapter 13, verses 15 to 22. We continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time. Thank you for watching today's episode. We hope that you found it edifying and ask that you not only subscribe to our channel and podcast, but that you like and share this episode among your friends so that the saving gospel of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.